Welcome, 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 my lovely brothers and sisters. Welcome, welcome, or welcome to a new live book reading. Today I am reading from the Orion Book Vol2, written by Wes Penre. And please go to the websites mentioned in the text box. Today's topic is a topic that still too many brothers and sisters are ignoring or denying. The topic for today is the harvesting of souls. What does harvesting imply? And humans harvesting humans. It is not that long chapter, so I start quickly so I can finish off this entire chapter. All right, the harvesting of souls, and it opens with a warning. This chapter is not for the faint-hearted. For years, Wes Penre have excluded the following information from his regular public exposes because it is quite disturbing. However, eventually people need to know this, and I think it is time to bring this up. It is about the harvesting of souls, as the chapter title shows, and it is nothing like we have been taught it is. It is much more sinister, dark, and evil than us is being told. All this information developed from discussions with the Orion, or better known as Orion, source back in the days. So he had a source in the Orion or Orion universe. What does harvesting imply? In New Age circles, and according to many channeled materials, the harvest is a so-called ascension process. Those who have gained a certain level of awareness or a significant increase in consciousness will ascend to the fourth or the fifth dimension. Well, we shall later see the lie in this. Sometimes, as with the famous Ra material, the between brackets law of one, the channeled entities are here to help us humans in the harvest process. These entities are here to help the humans in the harvest process. Well, later on, Wes Penre, will explain what this means. To those engaged in this belief, it may sound quite benevolent and uplifting. It takes you out of the reincarnation cycle, and you are to experience something loftier and more inspiring. This, of course, is why many people fall for this bait. It is a bait. Those who have read the Wes Penre papers, part 1, the first level of learning till the 6th level of learning, however, and have taken the information to heart, know that the ascension program, so ascension is a program, know that the ascension program is EN.KI's, or better known as Enki's, program that supposedly will help us graduate and leave the matrix, which is all an illusion. Because Enki is a trickster, and Enki is also another name for a fallen archangel Uriel, whom we also better know as Lucifer. So, shortly said, Lucifer has set up cleverly a ascension program. All right, and this ascension program is a bait to all the people who believe in the ascension to 4th and 5th dimension, and who truly believe that they then can eventually escape the matrix or exit out of the matrix, which of course is not the case, because again, Enki is a trickster. Even if it takes millions of years, according to the Ra people, but what if the entire harvest process is one gigantic trap? As with many things in this matrix, is a trap. This is exactly what it is if we are to believe the Orion source. So let's investigate what he and I discussed approximately 10 years ago. And this book is from 2024. The extraterrestrial, between quotation marks, gold rush. All right. I became familiar with the ancient Anunnaki gold rush by reading Zecharia Sitchin's book, The 12th Planet, many years ago. In his translation of the Sumerian texts, he wrote that the early Homo sapiens, after replacing Anunnaki miners, were mining gold for the overlords. And this is something that they still are doing with many things. The story goes the gods needed the gold for digestion and longevity, but also for their Nibiru atmosphere as a shield. According to my contact in the Orion, this is a major fabrication or a mistranslation and interpretation at best. The so-called gold in the texts doesn't refer to mining or to gold at all. It is about crops such as wheat, although these are metaphors. What the gods wanted and still want, even on the days of today, is to yield crops, which is the metaphor for humans. What do humans do when the crops are ripe? We harvest the best ones and discard the bad ones. Thus, where the gods are concerned, the gold being mined is humans. We are the gold with the tastiest blood. By tastiest blood, I refer to blood as the life force in the body. It pertains to the soul and soul energy. When it is time for the harvest of humans, the overlords, also known as overseers of this matrix prison system, are getting prepared for a feast in soul energy. In other words, they will eat us. Even the Pleiadians from Marciniak's books in the 1990s were discussing this. But they won't eat all of us because the gods are very, very picky. Of course, because we humans also are very picky in what we eat. Unless the situation is there that we are enforced to eat everything what we can eat, such as in war times, we eat everything we can eat and possibly use as food. They want to feast on those who are more evolved than others and have increased their consciousness during their lifetime. So, what is the fifth dimension people talk about? So many people in the alternative communities, such as New Age and others, believe they are going to ascend to the fifth dimension after death. And some of them believe they will ascend whilst they are still alive. Unfortunately, things are not what they believe they are. The gods want to eat these souls once they depart from their bodies. The more raised in consciousness a person is, the more galactic current they create. So our soul energy and soul itself is a current. According to the person in the Orion, the more galactic current they create according to the Orion source, and the more they create, the more food for the gods. Behind the orchestration of the harvests are the calm kings. Harvesting does not happen all the time. It is restricted to galactic so-called seasons, when the galactic waves are in favor of making people wake up. Such a harvest is apparently due now, after the nanosecond happened between 1987 and 2012, when the cosmic winds from the galactic center hit the Earth grid. So it is not a good idea to be a new ager reaching for the fifth dimension. Some of these souls will get eaten. All right, humans harvesting humans. So far we have talked about the Syrians and channeled entities behind the harvests. But there is another aspect of it as well. We are also dealing with treacherous humans who help the overlords to harvest other humans, very much knowing what they are doing. These are the gurus and the prominent spiritual teachers of the world. They are here on a mission to accrue followers whom the overlords then can harvest and eat. These gurus and teachers have been promised great rewards after their own lives are over. Knowing the overlords, I would not be surprised if they are being eaten too. Of course, because the overlords promises are not promises at all. The overlords create a promise only as a bait so that you do what they are demanding from you to do. And as a bait, they tell you, oh, but if your job is done, you get rewarded. It always rubbed me the wrong way, checking out these gurus and teachers, noticing what was going on under the surface. Every time I have looked, I found crimes. Some were rapists, others were stealing money from their followers, and yet others were pedophiles, wife murderers, and the list goes on and on. So these gurus were and still are not trustable at all. All this is covered up by a holy and enlightened facade. There we have the real criminals in the spiritual field. Of course, among these are the actual gurus, East Indians and others, but also many Western teachers who turn out to be, when we dig a little deeper, con artists, malignant narcissists, or worse, sociopaths and psychopaths. Um, It is sometimes quite shocking, but might not come as a surprise. The gods use galactic currents, precession of equinoxes, and ethical behavior to yield the best crops. So now we get a better understanding what in actuality is going on during equinoxes. The crops considered undesirable will be destroyed and mixed, as usual, with soul fires from other departed souls and sent back to earth. They will be mixed out, or as reapers call it, crop self-correction. Up until now, at least, and after previous harvests, the ones sent back to earth were again put into the system, and maybe when the next harvest happened, they too were ripe enough to be eaten. And like it says in the raw material, not all harvests were fruitful. There were harvests in the past where no souls were harvested because of lack of spiritual awareness. So now you get to understand that you really um, have to take care very well for your soul, for yourself. Conclusion: what does it mean to be eaten compared to having the artificial soul, between brackets, the astral body, destroyed? It sounds like the same thing. Not exactly. Though we have already discussed the procedure of what happens to a regular person after death, unless they exit through the grid. If you do not exit through the grid, if you are not able to find a hole in the grid, you will probably fall for the bait of this tunnel of false light. Or if you do not fall for that one, then they have another bait in which they hope you fall for that bait, and that is the imaged stairway to heaven. And this all a projection. This tunnel with false light is a projection. But for you as a soul, it seems like real. They will have their astral body containing their soul fire, destroyed and mixed with other people's soul fires. Then they will get another avatar slash astral body and be shot back into a new meat body on Earth, starting over from scratch. As I understand it, when a soul is eaten, the overlords, between quotation marks, open the astral body and suck out the soul fires, figuratively speaking, and mix with their own fires. This is how they are able to stay alive. Thus, they gain soul energy. These fires will never be molded into a new avatar again. This simply means that the three unit consciousness who invested their consciousness into that astral body now has their artificial soul fires eaten. So it's artificial soul fires eaten. No more incarnations as I understand it. This will, of course, not destroy the three um, unit consciousness, but it seems that particular three UCs can no longer incarnate in the matrix system. What will happen after that is unknown to me at this point. So what happens after they have sucked out the um, artificial soul, which is the astral body, and the artificial soul fire? What happens then with the free unit consciousness? That is still a thing that he is still finding out and getting research on. So how this apply and how does this apply to us who are on our unique journey going through the grid? Will we also be eaten? Would we not be some of the tastiest souls there are? Probably, but that doesn't mean we are going to let it happen. Everything we have been rehearsing regarding exiting through the grid is still as valid as ever. No one, no overlord, no overseer, no fallen archangel, no fallen angel, no archon, no whatsoever being can interfere with our intentions and our free will. As we have discussed hundreds of times, all we need to do is to exit through a hole in the grid. For those who are unfamiliar with how to exit, go to the wespenrevideos.com and click on exiting the matrix grid, or exiting the grid, I mean, in the top section, and start reading and listening to the videos. It is crucial that you do. And I would say we are all safe, but only if we choose to exit after this lifetime. If we do not choose so, we could be in trouble. The bottom line is that those who get eaten are being eaten because of their ignorance. And unfortunately, many brothers and sisters are still in ignorance. Unfortunately, those who work on ascending are the ones who are tricked because they know not what they are doing. We do. This may all sound horrific, but I need to let the people know. Knowledge is always better than ignorance because we can plan, and plan we must. We need to get rid of all attachments to the matrix before we die, so nothing tempts us to come back. And to be honest, we might not come back to Earth at all, even if we wanted to. With the information in this chapter and in this whole book and in the first part of the Orion book, part 1, and all the other information in the Wes Penre papers from the first level of learning till the last, the sixth level of learning, which is very interesting information. All this in mind, it seems none of us is the subject to any other. It seems none of us is the subject to another reincarnation cycle, no matter what. And with this said, I would like to go a little bit back to narcissism and human creativity. This is a short chapter, so I take this chapter also because it is a very important chapter. It has a lot of important information in it. So, narcissism and human creativity. I would like to expand a little on narcissism, something I discussed in new terms and at some length in the Orion Book Volume 1. But I also want to show how amazingly creative the human mind is. And that is why I add this chapter behind the one that I've read from, because this is very important. We are at the brink of a crucial breaking point in which the non-human beings whom are pulling the strings here on Earth through their minions and proxies, such as the elite oligarchs and monarchs. They are about to undo humans from their humanness, and also are they about to undo the humans from their sovereignty, free will, and creativeness. And we should be very careful in using artificial intelligence. And I advise you to dive into this topic and make your own conclusion how wise it is to use artificial intelligence. I am not using it. I do as many as possible, my best to not use that, because I know there is a sinister agenda behind artificial intelligence, and we need to have ourselves more educated in this topic. And I highly recommend you to read the book from Wes Penre, all about singularity. But I also want to show how amazingly creative the human mind is, perhaps even more so in a little toddler who tries to cope with a very harsh environment. In a previous book, we discussed how the traumatized and emotionally wounded toddler creates a false self as a coping mechanism. So the false self can take the beating and the verbal abuse from the caregivers, while the real self is hiding beneath the false persona that is slowly but surely developing. Thus, the real self stays in a toddler mode, while the false self becomes the only active personality who runs the show throughout the entire lifetime. This false self is who we call a narcissist. Narcissism runs on a sliding scale, and we see a rise of narcissism going on in this world. Only if the person scores the highest, which is 10 on the scale, psychologists can diagnose him or her with narcissistic personality disorder. This means the false self, which the toddler created to protect himself or herself, has completely taken over the body, and the little child inside is literally asleep. However, let's say a person scores a 6 on the scale for narcissism. The narcissistic traits have taken over the genuine person by 60%, and so on. In all the tragedy following narcissistic abuse, it is amazing how a child, from being a toddler to maybe 5 years old or so, can create this alter ego that is so strong that it engulfs the genuine being who was born into that body. But according to psychology, this is exactly what happens, and it makes sense. From the time when the narcissistic false self is developed, the toddler, the little child, gets buried inside the body, letting the narcissistic thought form. So letting the narcissistic thought form, if you will, take over the entire show. This false persona thinks they are the person, whereas it was created to protect the genuine person from abuse. This false self also spends its entire life trying to solve a mother issue the genuine soul suffered through at 6 to 18 months, where they could not separate from their mother. So the narcissistic false self goes into relationships, often romantic relationships, where the partner becomes the surrogate mother whom the narcissist first gets attached to. So the love bombing phase in the beginning of the relationship starts. Then needs to devalue, just like a toddler does with their so-called annoying mother, a normal process in a child's unknowingly development, and then they eventually discard the partner. Unknowingly, they try to separate from the surrogate mother. However, this never resolves because the partner is not the actual mother, so the narcissist usually starts a new relationship and the same pattern plays out. Thus, it goes on repeatedly throughout the narcissist's entire life. I discussed all this in the Orion Book Volume 1, but I want to recap it here to refresh the reader's memory, which will be helpful while we can discuss another issue. A narcissist is our mirror, and so the opposite of us. It gets interesting when they try to heal, even so little. If you and I start our inner healing process and it is done correctly, we feel better and stronger, more secure within ourselves, and we set up boundaries because we now value ourselves. This is a normal process for a regular person who has gone through trauma in their lives. Not so with a narcissist. If a narcissist goes to therapy, which is quite unique, the therapist is not healing the dormant child, i.e., the genuine person within, but they unwittingly try to heal the narcissist if they do not know what they are doing, which unfortunately is the case with many therapists, even according to Professor Vacnin. It is well known that narcissists do not make progress in therapy, and there is a reason for this. Every time they confront something inside themselves which is supposed to heal them, they feel they are dying. It is the exact opposite of a regular person. The narcissists often say they have no core. There is no core being inside them, only a huge black hole like a void. Therefore, every time you remove something from the narcissists, it becomes less of them. It is like peeling an onion, but when you get to the core of the onion, there is no core and the onion is no more. A therapist who is not highly educated in narcissism makes them peel off um, everything there is of the narcissist, and if the narcissist would finish the therapy, he or she literally dies because it is a false persona. I would say narcissists are very much between quotation marks alive thought forms who can think for themselves. Indeed, they can be extremely intelligent sometimes, but they do not respond to treatment because they feel the therapist is killing them. So they, as time progresses in therapy, cease to exist, literally, and they panic. Therefore, they resist change. Change means death to them. They are programs having a task, a mission, and that is all there is to it. Their job is to protect the inner child from abuse that may no longer exist. The narcissist is frozen in time somewhere in childhood. To look at this more virtually, the narcissist's false persona was born about 2 to 3 years into the person's life, in one of the child's most important developmental stage. The narcissist was not there when the baby was born, but it replaced the baby's mind. So if the narcissists go through therapy, they cannot go further back than, let's say, to the age of 2 or 3 years. Before that, they did not exist. Therefore, it is impossible for the narcissist's persona to survive death and reincarnate because they are not the person. They are just fluff that will most likely disperse when the body dies. And then as last, feeling sorry for the narcissist. It is very common to feel sorry for the narcissist even though they have tortured us and deprived us of our lives and our personality. If we leave them, we often give in to their drama and we feel bad for leaving them. Or we emphasize with what seems to be a vulnerable person beneath all that abuse. I included this chapter for one reason, and that is to convey important information to the reader if you are or have been in a situation when you had to separate from a narcissist. We must remember that the narcissist is not a person. It is a coping mechanism who most likely cannot survive body death. Instead, when the narcissist's body dies, the genuine toddler inside, who never developed into an adult human, now leaves the body as usual and gets recycled again, hopefully to a better life. So death is the only thing that can free the genuine soul buried deep inside the person. No therapy can reach them because of the narcissistic overlay. It's also an overlay who defends the inner child ferociously. They are a complicated coping mechanism that is very mechanical, and like Sam Vacking says, he is more AI than a real person. He was diagnosed with narcissism twice. So the one we should feel empathy for is not the thought form, the overlay called narcissist. That is the narcissist, but the horribly abused little toddler inside, who is hiding and never developed. That is the genuine tragedy. The thought form is nothing but a malignant overlay that cannot distinguish between good and evil, thinking everybody is out to get him or her, having no genuine soul on their own, unable to feel empathy, unable to feel real empathy because a narcissist mimics empathy, mimics love. So all a program in them. They mimic compassion and also love. Other than when they mimic these three human characteristics to gain soul energy, so the thought form can survive. Research thought form, and you will see the eerie connection to narcissism. The narcissist develops into what they become because of people around him. They study us with a magnifying glass and learn everything about us. So they know how to behave, when to cry, when to be so-called sad, when to have empathy, when to have this image of love, when to be kind, when to be nice, but all is mimicked, is not real. So they know how to behave and can use our own traits against us to get the loosh, soul energy they so much need to stay alive. Narcissists cannot survive without feeding on others because they cannot produce their own energy, because they lack a soul. Obviously, they are not truly sentient. They are a split personality of the original child, a division of the mind of a terrified toddler, a personality that went its own way, having its own thinking processes, developed by copying, developed by copying what other people think and do to use that against them. Thus, they can be very convincing and take on any persona they think is relevant to a certain life situation. Therefore, they fool most people. And why is this added to today's chapter reading? Because the ones that are pulling the strings in this world are of no soul. They lack a soul, they lack spirit, they lack life force energy, they lack own soul energy, and they are the ones whom are constantly fooling and manipulating the human soul group. They develop intelligence and cold empathy out of necessity to survive in what they consider a hostile environment, where no one can be trusted and everyone is an enemy. They live with constant paranoia. As you, the reader, can imagine now, there is nothing you can do for a narcissist. All you can do is to save yourself. The sooner the better, and if we want to emphasize, it is the inner child who needs the empathy and the compassion, not the narcissist, not the narcissistic, malignant coping mechanism that also can eventually turn into a sociopath or a psychopath or a Machiavellist. So, with this said, I have come to the end of reading two chapters today, chapter 14 and chapter 13. Um, Again, I want to say to you and advise you in actuality, please go to the links in the text box. Please go to the Wes Penre videos.com and wespenry.com. Go to his articles, uh, go through a lot of his videos. Um, and I highly recommend you to read the Orion book yourself. Um, you can say there's a lot of information in it also coming from the Wes Penre papers, first level of learning to the sixth level of learning. Also intertwined in it, he has written other very interesting books, also one that is all about the singularity. Please read that one too, because we are at a crucial point in our human history. And the timeline that these malignant beings want to push us into, because they have a war plan with the Orion universe, please do not go for that timeline. Go for another timeline. Step out of this timeline. How can you step out of this timeline? By informing yourselves, by educating yourselves, and by reading the information from books I am reading and am reading from to you. Lovely brothers and sisters, I do this because I truly and sincerely care about you. I truly and sincerely care about my fellow brothers and sisters, and it hurts my heart to see that so many are still caught up in psychological operations, caught up in all sorts of false promises, are still thinking that someone can save them, which is absolutely not the case. We are the only ones who can save ourselves. Each one of us needs to save itself. Um, and it hurts me very well, very much better said, to see that so many are still in this ignorance and avoidance of seeing what is really going on and seeing the things for what they actually are. And I also want to mention another person, Ole Damagaard. Ole Damagaard is very skilled in decoding psychological operations. You can learn a lot from him in how he decodes what is happening, because each and every psychological operation or psyop is in actuality deliberately done to have us all distracted and derailed. But also, there are some psyops done as a sort of beta test for a certain agenda that soon after the beta test has succeeded, yes or no, shall be then rolled out. So I would also say go to the website of Ole Damagaard. Um, I, yeah, well, just type his name and you will come on his website and learn from how this man is decoding psychological operations, because by learning from a person like him too, you also start seeing this matrix for what it is, a matrix, and you start to see the things for what they truly are. And this is something we all need to do. We need to stop taking everything as a nice baked, nice, tasty cookie and believe all these talking heads under blue eyes and their nice tuxedos and whatever $500 haircut that they have and their nice charism, because these people are proxies and minions for the ones whom are truly pulling the strings and here on earth and are truly running the show here on earth. So do not believe the news anymore. Do not believe what is being said in the newspapers, on the television, on the radio, and not even on social media, not even on the internet. Do your research, ask questions, and ask for truth. And find yourselves this truth and start making a plan, because everything goes rapid. What I say, a lot of humans are not realizing how fast the things are now going. And I think it is a good idea to realize this yourself and to make a plan for yourselves. And also, state for yourselves to what degree you are participating in these agendas. Because again, they want to enforce the human soul group into a nanoverse, this metaverse. And this metaverse is not built for our best interest at all. Absolutely not. This whole metaverse is built as a ground, a realm in which they finally can succeed a long waited war that they can wage against the Orion universe, and so against the creatrix, the divine feminine herself, who is the creatrix of the human soul group. So the human soul group, by pushing them into the metaverse, will eventually be the foot soldiers or doormat for these entities, fallen archangels, fallen angels, archons, and whatever malevolent entity that wants to wage war against the Orion Empire. Orion universe, better said, and thus against the divine feminine too. Um, do you want to participate in such a war? Uh, Me not. I shall never participate in such a horrificness. Never. So I am making up my plans, and I start to create for myself a line in which I say enough is enough. And if this means that I eventually have to give up everything to save my soul and thus myself, I will do so. And if that means to give up my whole home and to live uh, more or less in a very tiny sort of tent-like structure, or yeah, then I will do so. But it's all better than what is awaiting for humanity. The destiny of humanity is not what people think it is. And it's not in their best interest at all. So again, inform yourselves, educate yourselves, and be aware of what is truly going on. See all the things that are happening around you for what they truly are. And don't let yourselves being fooled. You are, as a matter of fact, on your own. No one can save you. No one. So we need to get rid of this savior syndrome and leave that behind us and put it in a trash bin, because it doesn't save us at all. And with this said, I want to end this online reading to you, and let us listen to a beautiful piece of music created by Ben Sound. Coffee hours. Cozy coffee hour. All right. Thank you for listening. Next time.